I've actually reviewed this WrestleMania already, a year ago after it first aired. I didn't rewatch my review because I can't think of anything more obnoxious than watching some nerd review WrestleMania on YouTube. Oh.
You're watching So Awkward. This is Freddy Krueger saying, hi!
WrestleMania 32 in Dallas, Texas, 2016. So this is the last WrestleMania recap we'll have until WrestleMania 33, which premieres April 2nd. And we'll talk about that next week. I'm going to try to keep this review as quick as possible, which is the opposite of what they did with this WrestleMania, which was 5 hours long. And it was bad. It was real bad. There were a couple good matches, but for the most part it was so much filler and just some really terrible matches, and it just dragged on forever. This may in fact be the worst WrestleMania of all time. Certainly the worst one we've seen in months. I can't remember being more bored and annoyed. This was a dark time in WWE history. This was a bad time to be a wrestling fan. First of all, the creative team was not at their best. There was some really, really bad ideas, a really, really bad writing and booking, a lot of great talent, some of the best talent in-ring performance-wise in the history of the business. But just what they had them do was just really bad and boring. Also, there were a lot of injuries leading up to WrestleMania. Seth Rollins was out. Seth Rollins, who you remember, won the title at the end of WrestleMania 31. He hurt his knee and was out. John Cena, I think, hurt his shoulder or something. John Cena, who has been around for every WrestleMania for the past decade, out. Randy Orton hurt some body part. I don't know. Out. Daniel Bryan, was he retired at this point? Because he had so many concussions he couldn't wrestle. So some of their best and brightest and most iconic were out. And very last minute, so they had to scramble to rewrite storylines. And so just on so many levels, this was just an unsatisfying WrestleMania. So let's try to breeze through this as quickly as possible. It's not all bad. It opens with the Intercontinental title on the line in a ladder match. We've got The Miz, Sami Zayn making his WrestleMania debut, Stardust, Sin Cara, who I think was making his WrestleMania debut, Zack Ryder, and Kevin Owens' WrestleMania debut. Quality match. Really good wrestlers. I liked it for the most part. At this point, I am so sick of ladder matches. But Zack Ryder wins and becomes the new Intercontinental Champion. Good for Zack Ryder. Fan favorite. Everybody likes Zack Ryder. He finally got a title and his WrestleMania moment. Perhaps the last he'll ever have. He did lose the title the very next day on Monday Night Raw to The Miz. But that's okay because The Miz had a great run. But good for Zack Ryder. This was fine. This was a fine match. It was a good way to start it off. Then we go into AJ Styles making his WrestleMania debut versus Chris Jericho. Match of the night. This was great. I love both of these two. AJ Styles, who has been an indie wrestler and in Japan and TNA or all these other things that I've never heard of and never watched. And he just made his WWE debut at the Royal Rumble previous to this WrestleMania. He is awesome. One of the greatest wrestlers I've ever seen. He's awesome. And this was an awesome match. It was him against Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho won, but don't feel bad for AJ Styles because he does go on to be champion. Anyway, this was the match of the night. This was quite possibly the only great match, but it was pretty great. Then we have a 6-man tag team match for the tag titles. It's champions New Day making their collective WrestleMania debut. Xavier Woods probably making his WrestleMania debut. Big E has been in there, and Kofi Kingston has been in there, but this is the New Day's WrestleMania debut. They had a great entrance. They were in a box of Bootios, which is their fake cereal. Or is it fake? Because we have eaten it. Search for that video on the channel. It was Lucky Charms. But anyway, so there's a giant cereal box and it tips over and they come out and I think they're dressed like Dragon Ball Z characters or something. I've never seen Dragon Ball Z, but that's what somebody told me once. And they were fighting the League of Nations, remember them? That didn't last long. It was Sheamus, Alberto Del Rio, Rusev, and Bad News Barrett. Because it was a six-man tag, Bad News Barrett, was he Bad News Barrett at this point or just Wade Barrett? He was at ringside while the other ones fought. And the League of Nations won. This one was fine. It was fine. After they win, they get mics and they start talking about how they're the toughest guys in the ring and nobody can beat them. And then Stone Cold Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, and Mick Foley come out and they beat him up. I love Shawn Michaels. I love Stone Cold. I love Mick Foley. And it's great seeing these old retired wrestlers come back to the ring at WrestleMania. But having them beat up the new stars is kind of lame and kind of weird. But I'm not going to complain too much because you get to see Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold and Mick Foley again. It's always fun. But they could have given them, I don't know. They could have given them something else to do. Then we go into a no-holds-barred street fight between Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose. Boy, that sounds exciting. That's what I thought. That's what everybody thought. But boy, was this boring. This was just a boring match, which was just like every other Brock Lesnar match where he just suplexes people over and over and over again. Dean Ambrose did his best to mix it up and keep things exciting, but for the most part, it was just really boring and uneventful, and Brock Lesnar won. Later on the Stone Cold podcast and maybe some other interviews, Dean Ambrose complained about how he had all these amazing ideas and they just got shot down because as he said, Brock Lesnar was lazy and didn't want to do anything, which is too bad. And it really showed in the match because it was boring. But this was Dean Ambrose's first solo WrestleMania match. He goes on to be champion as well, so don't feel too bad for him. Let's check in with the Hall of Fame class of 2016. We got the fabulous Freebirds, finally in there. The Godfather, a.k.a. Papa Shango, a.k.a. a dozen other names. Big Boss Man, posthumously, rest in peace. Jackie Moore, Jacqueline. Stan Hansen, Snoop Doggy Dogg, and Sting. I got nothing bad to say about any of these people. Then we have the Women's Championship. This is kind of an interesting one. It's Charlotte is the Divas Champion. But this match is going to retire the Divas Championship. You know, that ugly pink butterfly belt. That's going away, and the winner of this match becomes the just unveiled that night by Lita, the Women's Championship belt. Anyways, champion Charlotte versus Becky Lynch versus Sasha. All of whom I believe are making their WrestleMania debuts. Pretty cool. So this was a triple threat match, and it was a really, really good one. This may in fact be the best women's wrestling match in WrestleMania history. It was just a quality match. These are three great wrestlers, and they put on a great show. But Charlotte prevailed and was the last Divas champion and the first of the new women's championship holders. I could have said that more eloquently, or maybe I couldn't have. Second best match of the night, probably after AJ Styles and Jericho. Maybe even better, I don't know. They're both very good. Next up is The Undertaker versus Shane McMahon. Boy, it's been a long time since we talked about Shane McMahon. The premise here is that Shane McMahon, who's been away from the company for at least 10 years, 15 years, I don't remember, he came back on Monday Night Raw to talk about how the direction the company's going is bad and he wants to take over. He wants to reclaim his birthright. He's the prodigal son returning. And Vince says, okay, I'll give you a chance. I'll let you take over Monday Night Raw and the company, but you have to beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania in a Hell in a Cell match. So that's the premise there. So people kind of didn't know what was going to happen. Why have this insane gimmick just to have Shane lose? It wouldn't make any sense. But you're not going to have The Undertaker lose to Shane McMahon, who has been away from the company for 15 years. So what ended up happening was The Undertaker wins, of course, and then Shane takes over Monday Night Raw anyway, just because of dumb writing. It was a fine match. If what you're into is a lot of violence and people, you're jumping from huge heights and almost killing themselves. That's what Shane McMahon does. He's a stuntman more than he is a wrestler. But his stunts are amazing, and he's very good at it, and he's very charismatic. This match was fine. It was two old guys jumping off cages and breaking tables and slamming each other with chairs. I didn't love it, but I respected it. And both of these two are veterans of the business, and they deserve props for what they did and for not dying. This was an insane match, but I'm a wrestling fan. I like wrestling. And this wasn't really wrestling. This was over the top stunts. But that has its place too. It was neat. It was fine. I'm not going to complain about it. Then we go into the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, which is always fun, but not amazing. I wish that the winner of the Battle Royal got more than just a trophy. If you win Royal Rumble, you get the main event at WrestleMania. If you win the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, you get an ugly trophy. So that's neat, but you never hear about it again. You never see the trophy again. They should get something. It would make the match just mean more. But as it was pretty cool, and you had some, and it's always an excuse to get the leftovers into WrestleMania. You know, the people who aren't in a big feud, who don't have a real match. You know, you got people like, you know, get Shane in there, you get Big Show, Tyler Breeze, Shaquille O'Neal was in there. He faced off against Big Show, and I believe the plan there was to lead up to a match this year, 2017, against Big Show and Shaquille O'Neal, which is not going to happen because apparently Shaquille O'Neal is too fat and out of shape. So they had to scrap it, which is for the best. We also had some old timers in there. Tatanka. When was the last time we talked about Tatanka? What, like WrestleMania 9? And DDP, Diamond Dallas Page. When was the last time we talked about him? Have we ever talked about him? Has he ever been at WrestleMania? I don't remember. But the winner was Baron Corbin, which is pretty cool. I like Baron Corbin. He's a big, badass villain. He's cool. I like Baron Corbin. And it was cool to see him get a win, and it gave him, it set his career on a pretty good path in WWE, and he's been pretty good since then. Then The Rock comes out for your 30-minute long Rock promo. He comes out with a flamethrower, and he starts shooting into the crowd, and then he walks up to The Rock, is written in giant letters, and he lights it on fire, so The Rock is ablaze. Although it didn't really look quite as cool as they probably thought it would. Glitter that had a little bit of flame on it. It wasn't that badass. He comes to the ring and he talks about how they set the WrestleMania attendance record. It was like 100,000 people or something. And then Bray Wyatt and his crew come out to confront The Rock. And Bray Wyatt, remember, who made his WrestleMania debut at WrestleMania 30 against John Cena. And then at WrestleMania 31 he fought The Undertaker. And now he just stands awkwardly in the ring while The Rock insults him. It was, but at least he got to be in the ring with The Rock. Maybe he really loved it. So they talk for a little bit, and then The Rock challenges Eric Rowan, who is one of Bray Wyatt's, I guess, acolytes, you might call him. And he destroys him. They have a match, and it's over in 6 seconds. He puts him in the rock bottom, pins him, it's over. It's completely pointless and pretty stupid to fuel The Rock's ego, I guess. I don't know. It was really lame. And then, so the three of them start to attack The Rock, and then out comes John Cena, which is great. You can't have a WrestleMania without John Cena. He couldn't have a real match because he was still recuperating from his, I believe, shoulder injury. So they run the Wyatts out of the ring, and then 40 minutes later, or whatever it is, WrestleMania resumes. This was really lame. I love The Rock, and he needs to be at WrestleMania, but they need to, hopefully this year, WrestleMania 33, they'll just give him like 10 minutes. Just like 10, even 15 minutes. That's all you need of The Rock. That's why was this show 5 hours long? But don't feel bad for Bray Wyatt because he's now the champion, and he's going to be headlining WrestleMania 33. And then we have our main event, which is champion Triple H, yeah, that's right, defending against Roman Reigns. I always defend Roman Reigns. I love Roman Reigns. He's one of my favorite wrestlers. I think he's great. This is a terrible match. This is arguably the worst main event in WrestleMania history. Certainly the worst that I can think of. It's really bad. And it's so long. It's so slow paced. The chemistry is off. They don't work well together. The whole storyline was just bad. Again, Seth Rollins had the title and he had to drop it because he had a legit injury. So that changed a lot of the writing, and so that explains why the storyline and the rivalry between Triple H and Roman Reigns just felt so forced and didn't work. But also, it's just the match itself was bad. This just didn't work for me at all. It was bad. And Roman Reigns has gotten a lot better since then, but this was back when his moveset was really limited. He would do the Superman punch, and he would do the spear. But I think he has the best spear ever. He does a great spear. He wins the match by spearing Triple H, and it's brutal and great. And he also spears accidentally Stephanie McMahon, Triple H's wife, who was there at ringside. He's going to spear Triple H, but she gets in the way, so he spears her. And that was a huge reaction from some of the crowd. But anyway, it ends with Roman Reigns winning and reclaiming the title. Everybody really, really booed him. They booed him when he came out. They booed him every time he put on an offense, and they booed him when he won. And I'm not going to say they shouldn't, because at this point, it was just a bad match. It was a bad rivalry. It was a bad decision to have the match and to have him win. And just what they did with him. I'm not going to get into the Royal Rumble previous to that, which really starts the storyline. It was really a terrible Royal Rumble. Everything they did with Roman Reigns that year was bad. Bad, bad, bad. Bad match. Bad WrestleMania. Skip it. Don't watch this one. Worst WrestleMania ever. I'm going to say it. I need to look through my files before I make it official. Oh yeah, WrestleMania 7. But yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I did it. I've rewatched and reviewed every old WrestleMania. And I feel like I fought a battle. I feel like I was just in the ring with Triple H. Undertaker's streak was what, 22? My streak has been 32. And then and then this Sunday, April 2nd, only on the WWE Network, $9.99 a month. But you can sign up now for a free month, which will get you WrestleMania. I am not in any way associated with them. I tweet every WrestleMania Wednesday video to them, and they have never liked it or retweeted it, but I still love WWE. So I will see you next Wednesday when we will talk about the still to come WrestleMania 33 in Orlando, Florida. I'm excited. I think the card looks really cool. And since WrestleMania 32, which I said was a very, very dark time for WrestleMania, they've had the brand split. They've just, they seem to have a renewed creative team, and things have been great. This has been a golden age. Late 2016, early 2017 has been a golden age for WWE. It's been great. They have some amazing wrestlers, and I think the card for WrestleMania 33 looks really, really good. So watch it with me on Sunday night, and then tune in next Wednesday to hear my thoughts. I don't know. We'll see. Bye, everybody. See you next Wednesday.